Hola, hoy estamos de suerte. Les voy a contar una historia. Hola, mi nombre es Eric Herlock y esta es el podcast de Cáñamo Industrial de Lancaster Farming. Hello there. Howdy, it's me, your host, Eric Herlock. Welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. I've got a treat for you today. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to take you on a journey. So sit back and listen to my tale. Where does it start? Well, every good tale starts in the beginning, of course. And for me, the beginning is Wednesday morning, March 4th. For that is when things started to make sense. That is when I was beginning to understand what was happening to me. So that's where we are right now. It's Wednesday, March 4th, and I'm standing on the edge of a giant soybean field. If I didn't know any better, I'd think I was in Iowa. But I'm not. It's March 4th, and it's late summer, and these beans have about another month or so yet before they're harvested. If you zoom out from where I am, you see that I am standing essentially on a green triangle with little bright red roofs on all of the farm buildings. And if you zoom out further, you see this green triangle is in a patchwork of farm fields, squares, circles, more triangles. Yeah, I am in the Pampas, La Pampa. I am in Argentina. I'm staying here at this homestead, a family homestead. My host, his family has been farming here for 150 years. Behind me is La Cocina. It's the house where I'm staying. It's the kitchen house. I got here yesterday and I'll stay the night here tonight. And then on Thursday, we head out. But why am I here? And what am I about to tell you? An unbelievable story, that's what. Like if somebody told me what I'm about to tell you, I'd be like, no, that's unbelievable. But what I am about to tell you is totally true. I saw it with my own eyes. This is a different kind of Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp podcast today because we're in Argentina, South America, the Southern Hemisphere, where the fabric of time is woven a little differently. Last night I saw the full moon rise up and then travel across the northern sky. I've never seen that back home. And I saw Orion, the guy with the belt and the dog. Well, they got him here too, but they keep him in a different part of the sky and they call him the Three Marys. It's mind-blowing, the little differences. And listen to those birds. They sort of sound like the mourning doves back home. But these doves don't sound like they're in mourning at all. They feel the excitement. They know that we're standing on the edge of fundamental change. You can feel it, right? Things are changing. The birds can feel it too. So yeah, I have been in awe of everything and everyone since I got here. So anyway, I'm here, and I'm about to tell you why I'm here. But how did I get here? That's a great question. I flew in an airplane. You probably guessed that. The airplane ticket was paid for by our sponsors, by the folks at Commonwealth Denim, Tuscarora Mills, and Canna Markets Group. Those three companies back home in Pennsylvania, they believe in what I'm doing. They were like, yeah, Eric, you should definitely go to South America and report on this. Because I told them a little bit about what I was going to see, and they couldn't believe it either. They were like, yeah, you need to go there. Because what they're working on is about building real infrastructure, connecting hemp from the field all the way through to finished products. It is not a coincidence that I am here. I work for Lancaster Farming, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. So of course I need to go to Argentina. This is a farming powerhouse. Argentina is built on agriculture. This is some of the best land in the world right here. The soil I'm standing on, these soybeans, this is a very rich part of the world when it comes to farming. It's like the Lancaster County of South America. But it's not just about growing crops. This is where seeds get made. This is where a lot of the world's seed gets multiplied. Farming is foundational here. Back home, yeah, farming is a big part of the economy, but it's not 23% of GDP. It's not 60% of exports. It's not 1 in 5 private sector jobs. So where we are matters. but I'm getting ahead of myself. This story doesn't actually start here. I mean, yes, it does. This is the beginning. This is Wednesday. And after everything I saw on Monday and Tuesday, I'm just now starting to understand what this actually is. But to tell you that, we have to go back to Sunday, to Buenos Aires. So here it is, Sunday, March 1st. I landed in Buenos Aires around noon after about 24 hours of travel. There were delays in Atlanta. It looked like World War III was breaking out overnight, but I made it. I was met by Santiago Lezica, founder and CEO of Ananda Pampa, an industrial hemp company based here in Argentina. Actually founded right here at this farmstead, just north of Pergamino, where I'm standing now.
My name is Santiago Lezica. I am born and raised in Buenos Aires. Half of my time is in Buenos Aires City, the capital of Argentina, and I would say that half of my time is at the farm in Pergamino.
We get into his car and start driving out of Buenos Aires toward Luján, about an hour and a half northwest. And what do you do when you're in Argentina, in a car, and the guy driving you has a hemp company? Well, you ask him questions, of course. That's what I do. I ask him everything about Argentina, about hemp, about the company. And he starts telling me how all of this began.
It's a pandemic idea that came to me.
I had a pandemic idea too. I tried to learn how to play the drums.
In those days, I have all the COVID in 2020 in Pergamino, in the farm, where my days were half of the days working there, helping with the cattle, fixing fences, cutting the grass of the park, whatever was necessary, and half of the day writing. In those days, I met a good friend of mine was working in California for a cannabis company, and he told me, hey, you must read more about this. And the thing is that I was still not very friendly about working directly with THC, and say, okay, let's understand what else do we have in that industry that would be interesting to understand. And in those days, I was introduced to whom now it's my partner, Gabriel Blocchi, and he came with the vision of developing a hemp company. The company is called Ananda Pampa. It was funded in 2021.
That first year, they grew about 4 acres of CBD and they were experimenting with fiber, but right out of the gate, they ran into trouble with genetics. Yeah, bad seed. Imagine that.
And we are not able of selling those regarding that we are working with genetics that were not compliant. And that was something that we didn't know.
Those early failures set them on a course to find better genetics, to solve this problem, which led them to Jeremy Klecki of Davis Farms of Oregon. And if you've been listening to the show over the past few years, you know Jeremy Klecki. He is one of the few people in this space who actually understands how to solve that problem. So I'm sitting there in the passenger seat listening to Santiago tell me this, and it's sounding very familiar. Because I talk to farmers and processors back home in the US, and I hear the same thing, bad seed. A guy in Kentucky told me that last year they planted 800,000 to 1 million seeds per acre and only got 200,000 plants. That's a lot of wasted seed, wasted time, wasted resources, wasted money. And that's the problem. And the more Santiago and I talked, the clearer it became. Everything starts with seed, with genetics. But now we're not just talking about hemp, we're talking about agriculture. Because where we are, this part of Argentina, Pergamino, the Pampas, this is where seeds get made. Corn, soy, wheat. This is where the systems already exist to do this at scale. And that's when it starts to click. This isn't just a hemp company. This is, how do you take hemp and make it behave like a commodity crop? And I had been talking to Jeremy Klecki for years about this exact problem. It always comes back to the same thing: seed, genetics, scale, and how this becomes agriculture. Over time, I've gotten to know Jeremy. I check in with him periodically. I learn something interesting every time we talk. He's sort of become a mentor to me. Back in January of this year, Jeremy reached out and he said, hey, you've got to come down and see this. That this was something different. That this is what he's been talking about all along. But now he was ready to show it to me. And so I'm in a car in Argentina, listening to Santiago describe the problem, headed to see what Jeremy's been talking about this whole time. We're driving into Lujan, past the Basilica, Our Lady of Lujan rising over the city, and we're headed to Jeremy Kletke's house. There's a fire going. A feast is being prepared. This will be my first asado. I still don't fully understand what I'm walking into, but I know it has something to do with solving that seed problem. We pull in, and that's where things really begin. We pull into Jeremy's place in Lujan. There's already a fire going in the Parisia out back where Gabriel Blocki, Gabo, is standing over it, working the coals, not rushing. There's a rhythm to it. The fire is set low, controlled, meat cooked on fire, and the feast happens in waves. First chorizo, blood sausages, mojeca, then cuts of beef. Simple, salt, fire, short ribs, vaseo, different textures, different fat, everything cooked with intention, nothing complicated, just time and attention. At the table, everyone's there. Jeremy, Santiago, Gabo, Ricardo, Santi, Andres, Bettina, Rosario. The plates fill up and we feast. The wine is flowing and the conversation flows with it. Spanish, English, back and forth. You can't keep up with everything, but you don't need to. You just sort of stay with the tone, the rhythm, and it's enough. Later, I'm talking with Andres Maja and his wife Bettina. She helps me bridge the conversation a bit because she's an English teacher. We talk about Atahualpa Yupanqui, Charlie Garcia, Joana Molina, and even the Beatles, and it proves to me that music is the universal language. And that's what this whole night feels like. It's not confusing, it's just layered. Like there's more happening than I can fully track, but I'm still in it, still part of it. And the only reason I'm there, the only reason that any of this is happening is Jeremy Kletke. He's the one who invited me here. And later, he tells me,
and this is why I needed a storyteller really to help me with this. I was like, who do I know that can actually tell people about this? Because we need to get the word out about what's happening down here. But
he's been talking to me for a few years now about what they've been working on in Argentina. But I've never gotten the full picture, just enough to know that something was happening. Jeremy's a very private person. He doesn't just bring people in.
For the last 5 years, we've been working pretty much in silence, so this is not a new thing.
And now I'm sitting at his table on my first night in Argentina, being fed, being feasted, and I still don't fully understand what I'm sitting inside of, but I can feel there's something here, something real. It takes a few days, conversations in the car, in the field, walking around the industrial park, and little by little, what I felt that first night starts to take shape.
The problem that we identified is our farmers in the United States are struggling for a good source of seed that they can count on to be consistent, not even from a genetic standpoint, but even from a viability standpoint, meaning that a lot of these farmers are buying seed and they're getting 40% germination, 50% germination. That doesn't work for a farmer.
And that's it right there. That's the problem. Everything starts with seed, but it's not just genetics. It's about systems, protocols, a way to do this the way agriculture already works, because
there are standards and protocols for how the world produces seed.
And here in Argentina, those systems already exist.
A lot of seed multiplication is done here in Argentina for the U.S.
This is where the world multiplies seed. And what Ananda Papa is doing is applying that system to hemp.
I think so, and I think you know how important this is to me. I think that this is about our kids' kids. It's about our future, and the timing is everything. You know, we're here in front of all of these big agribusiness names, not trying to hide, but to make a statement, really to show them that if they want to take their CSR money, their corporate social responsibility dollars that they need to deploy, and they want to not greenwash them, they want to put them into something that actually is sustainable and impactful, that we're ready to do that heavy lifting. We are ready to do every bit of the heavy lifting that it takes so that our farmers in the United States, Canada, wherever these guys want to grow across Europe, have an opportunity to have seed that they can depend on. Without seed that you can depend on in agriculture, you can't stand up a commodity crop.
Amen to that, Jeremy. So it's still Wednesday morning, March 4th, and I'm still here under these ancient eucalyptus trees at Santiago's family farm, here on the edge of an enormous soybean field. At this point, I understand a few things. I understand the scale of agriculture here in Argentina. And I understand the problem: bad seed, unreliable genetics in the hemp space. And I understand the solution that Ananda Pampa is building: systems, protocols, a way to make hemp behave like a real crop. That's a great story. That alone would be enough, right? But that could have been a Zoom call. So that's not the only reason I am here. Few things about Jeremy Klecki. I have known him for a few years now. I've interviewed him. We've talked off the record, on the record. He's a builder. He moves with intention. He doesn't bring people into something unless it matters. So when he told me I needed to come down here to see this for myself, I took that seriously. And over these first few days, I've started to understand why. Because yeah, the seed problem is real. The solution is very real. That's happening. But that's not all he wanted me to see. I had some idea where we were going on Monday, but I was not prepared for the revelation awaiting for me. All right, so it's Monday, it's March 2nd, and my hosts have a very big day planned for me. We're heading into the town of Luján. We meet up with Andres and Bettina Mahe for a tour of the Flandria Industrial Park. And we start walking. Andres starts at the beginning, not with hemp, but with the place. Parque Flandria. He explains it as we move.
Es un nodo industrial antiguo transformado con un criterio ecológico de resignificación del patrimonio.
This wasn't just a factory. It was an industrial town built by Don Julio Steverlink.
A principios del siglo XX, en 1924 aproximadamente, don Julio Steverlink llega a la Argentina para cobrar una deuda que tenía una industria local que llamaba Braceras respecto de su familia que tenía fábricas en Flandes, en Bélgica.
Housing, school, production, all of it tied into the same system. And then he starts walking us through that system. Cotton spinning, fiber processing, spun into yarn, woven into fabric, dyed, finished. You can see the stages, the scale of it, the way everything is designed to connect, one step feeding the next. This is not small. This is industry, built in the middle of an agricultural landscape. Andres keeps coming back to the same idea. Nothing here was accidental. From there, we move into a museum, and now the story of Don Julio Steverlink slows down. We see photos, documents, context. Who was Don Julio Steverlink? Where did he come from? What was he trying to do? And this is where the shift happens. Because Andres starts talking about what happened to everything that didn't make it into the textiles, the part of the plants that would normally be waste. Steverlink didn't see it that way. The leftover material, the inner fiber, the hurd, he found another use for it. Pressed it, formed it, he turned it into building materials, not as a side project, but as part of the system. From the museum, we walk into one of his old offices, and now you can see it on the walls, in the ceiling. It's hemp. These aren't replicas. This is not some modern recreation. This is original material, still in place.
This right here is a 1960s, circa 1960s hemp composite wall panels. And they're here, existing still.
Where are we, Jeremy?
We are in Parque Steverlink. We are in the offices that used to house Linera, where Steverlink was himself, that's his company. And in the best case scenario, these become offices for Davis Farms and for Ananda Pampa.
Then we go into a meeting room and we sit down at a table. We have potato chips and Coca-Cola. And someone starts passing around these samples of what look like hemp wood. They're blocks, press board blocks made from hemp, but made a long time ago. These aren't artifacts behind glass in a museum. This is something you can hold, and that's when it clicks. This wasn't just textile production. This was a closed-loop system, a system where the output of one process becomes the input for another. And what we're looking at here, as Santiago told me earlier,
Don Julio Sterling, he was our father of the nation of hemp. He made hemp a reality in this country like 60, 70 years ago. He was a visionary in those days. And what we are doing nowadays is not continuing his legacy. What we are doing is leveraging his legacy.
And that's where the timeline shifts. Because Parque Steverlink isn't just preserving what was built here. It's being used, reactivated, not as a museum, but as an incubation point. The same logic, the same raw materials, a different set of tools. Santiago made that clear. They're not trying to recreate the past. They're leveraging it, using what already exists here as a foundation to build something new. The infrastructure, the location, the history. It reduces friction. It makes it possible to move faster, to think bigger. And that's where Davis Farms of Argentina comes in. Monday evening, Jeremy showed me what he's building here at Parque Steverlink. It's the beginning of a greenhouse.
We are at the future home of Davis Farms of Argentina, where we're going to multiply seeds for the world.
A place to develop genetics that can scale. Because that's the constraint right now. Not ideas, not enthusiasm, seed. Jeremy is direct about it. The goal is to build something that operates at agricultural scale, not boutique acreage, not experimental plots. Systems that produce consistent, reliable seed for farmers, and not just for Argentina, but for the United States. He describes it as a loop. Develop the genetics here, multiply them here, send them back when the market is ready.
And the genetic problem isn't just good genetic material, but it's how we multiply it at scale to feed a commodity industry, and how we build the SOPs to do that, and then how we deploy it into the marketplace. So we have been kind of avoiding that with hemp up to now, and so we have a little guy doing it here and a little guy doing it there. But there are really established set protocols for how all of these other commodity crops are managed.
Argentina already knows how to do this. Seed multiplication, large-scale agriculture, systems that operate cleanly, efficiently, predictably. That's not theoretical here, it's standard. And hemp fits into that system, not as an outlier, but as the next crop. So what's happening inside Parque Steverlink starts to resolve. This isn't just about honoring what Don Julio Steverlink built, it's about finishing the thought. Taking that same idea, nothing wasted, everything integrated, and applying it to the part of the hemp industry that still isn't solved. Reliable seed, scalable systems, real infrastructure, built in a place that already understands how to do it. So the blocks on the table, they're not just artifacts, they're a reference point. A reminder that this has been done before, and what's being built here now isn't starting from zero. It's picking up where something left off. It's still Wednesday morning, it's still March 4th, and I'm still here at Santiago's farm, standing in front of this sea of soybeans next to these ancient eucalyptus. I sort of never want to leave. This is a very beautiful and peaceful place, but I know I gotta head home. But at least I know where I am. The light comes in low across the fields, the wind is moving through the trees, the birds are singing. It's quiet, but it's not empty. It feels steady, like everything here already knows what it's doing. Yesterday, they took me out to one of the hemp seed multiplication fields. I've never seen a hemp field for seed multiplication before, so I have no, yardstick, no way to determine whether this is a good-looking field or not. But I mean, it does look good, Is this where you want it to be?
It is. It's a really wonderful baseline for us. I think we've achieved a lot here, and it gives us a clear picture of what we want to improve upon, the directions that we need to go. But again, solving the problem of not having stable quality seed that a farmer can trust this is what's being done here. And I'm really happy to say that I can see it clearly happening before my eyes.
How are you solving the problem?
Well, it starts with identifying the genetics that people want to use. You know, there's a great pool of genetics out there, most of them coming from the Cold War. We see a lot of them being pervaded across the planet now. You know, people are looking at all of them. So that was the beginning for us. I mean, as a breeder and geneticist, the baseline is finding what farmers need, what works for them, and then improving it, right? So this is what you're looking at is the point where we have identified the variety that needs to be increased, that we need to do the multiplication on for farmers to be successful. This is the Yuma. We have secured a license for that variety, a legal license, because this is another thing that's happening in our world, is that we are not honoring the standard procedures and protocols for genetic IP, which creates all kinds of problems. It's not just the theft and the lack of some sort of consideration going to the people that created the genetics, but it breaks the chain of communication, and it doesn't allow for the original geneticist and breeder to weigh in and support crop improvement. So in this case, we saw the production of the Yuma happening, especially at low latitudes, and it seems to work really well in the United States for low latitudes. We see a lot of farmers leaning into it. It clearly, because of its long lineage, thousands of years this plant has been naturally working in the field, not overly hybridized. Because of that, it's a clear performer.
The Yuma is sort of a feral variety.
It's slightly, and I would not call it feral because, you know, it has not gone wild again, but it's a little wilder than a lot of what we see out there. The Eastern European stuff, which is where a lot of the varieties have come from. They came out of the Cold War and were, you know, brought out of there. They were some of the last remaining varieties that we didn't destroy during Prohibition. So compared to those varieties, this is a little bit feral. And that feral nature sort of translates to a little bit tougher plant, a little bit more resilient plant.
Tenacity. So yeah, it's still Wednesday, but kind of feels like a different Wednesday, because now I can see the line from that field all the way to Parque Steverlink, to what's being built here in Argentina. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't abstract. It's not a pitch. It's not a promise. It's already happening. The seed problem, the thing farmers keep talking about, that has an answer. And it's being built here, not in isolation, but inside a system that already knows how to handle crops at scale. And that is the shift. You take hemp out of the margins and you put it into a system like this, and suddenly it looks different. It's not a novelty. It's not a niche. It's a real option. Standing here Wednesday morning, looking out over the Pampas, it's hard not to feel the weight of that. This hasn't been some casual hemp tour of Argentina for me. This has been me witnessing a system that is taking shape. I will have links to Anand de Pampa and Davis Farms of Argentina on the show page for this episode. So please go click them and go check out what they're doing. I encourage you to reach out to Jeremy and Santiago and Gabo. Find out how you can get involved. There's a lot of opportunity in Argentina. There's a lot of exciting things happening there's a lot more to this story. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of opportunity. So I'm grateful for this chance to tell this story. So thank you to my hosts in Argentina. My name is Eric Herlock. I'm the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Until next time, I'll see you at the Parisia. Ciao.
This episode of The Hemp Show was written, recorded, and produced by Eric Herlock. Mixing and mastering by Justin Berger. Music by Eric Herlock, with additional music from Blue Dot Sessions. The Hemp Show is copyright 2026 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family.